Okay, so last week I got to see the director's cut of Midsommar. And I actually watched the original cut for Midsommar when it came out a couple weeks earlier in theaters. Now, they're doing this, there's this trend, okay, and it's where a bunch of these movies will just put out re-releases. And it's basically just been Marvel movies. And then, like Midsommar, I was just going through, I got AMC Stubs A-List because it's kind of the best subscription service for a person like me. And come on, like $20 a month, 3 movies a week if you want, sign me up. And honestly, it just goes to show how little money they actually make selling movie tickets, and it goes to show why concessions are so expensive at movie theaters. Anyways, there's a trend of these re-releases. Marvel did it with Avengers Endgame. They put like 7 extra minutes of footage, which wasn't even like finished CGI, which I feel was just really bad for any of the fans who went and supported it. And if you want my honest opinion on this, Avengers Endgame is not as good as Avatar. I think Avatar is the better movie, and I think Avatar should be more celebrated because it is a truly original IP that made 2.7 billion, 2.8 billion worldwide. Now, Avengers Endgame made a lot of money, but that was because it was the entire culmination of the MCU. So, if there was, I don't know, Iron Man 1, if that made $2.78 billion worldwide, that'd be amazing. Or if a truly original IP made that amount of money, I would give him props. But so far, James Cameron has been the only guy to make that kind of money to tell that kind of a story. And that's definitely something I want to talk about in future podcasts, future videos. Now, moving on. Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home and Midsommar. Midsommar, definitely give them a pass because this is the director's cut. There's like 20 minutes of footage, so I am definitely fine with them doing like a re-release for this, because I don't technically call this a re-release either, because it's a different cut of the movie. A Spider-Man. Hey, it's a good song. Anyways, I think they're playing In the Air Tonight. So then, Spider-Man Far From Home extended cut. I guess they only did like 7 minutes or so. It was good. The movie was good. I'm not gonna go support Disney any more than I already have. I already feel bad enough doing it because they're just this. If there's any sort of entertainment conglomerate that I believe will become Skynet, it's either Disney or Amazon. That's just what I believe in. Don't judge me. Don't quote me on that. But if it happens, definitely do quote me on that. Anyways, they just want to make more money, you know? That's why they put it in theater. Like, I don't think that Avengers Endgame would have crossed Avatar's box office if it was not for that re-release. I honestly don't think so. Maybe like in December or something, I don't know, like a long time from when it actually did. So Midsommar, director's cut, really good. A lot better than the original cut, because the original cut, there's a thing about smart filmmakers when they trust the audience. If you watch any of Paul Thomas Anderson movies, especially Magnolia, The Master, There Will Be Blood. He doesn't spoon feed the audience. He trusts you as an audience member to understand what he's showing you and understand what's going on. And that allows him to do a lot of things differently and just a lot more efficiently too. And it gives a lot more room for him to tell the winding, very intricate story that he weaves. And I think that's really great, because most stories are very, very similar. It's just your hero, and obviously the conflicts, the characters, those are what makes these stories different. But in terms of the story itself, there are very few original stories. So, what Midsommar does, it's not anything that's original. I mean, Hereditary wasn't either. Now, I don't know why I'm saying original really weirdly, but original, okay? These are stories that you probably figure it out. Like it's very rarely that I walk into a movie and have like no idea what's happening next, or no idea what's going to happen next. And Midsommar has this very light feeling about that. The whole movie feels very light and bright and beautiful and colorful. It's all those things. And what makes it even scarier than Hereditary is because Hereditary was dark and brooding and just like gray and blue, and a lot of these dark colors that we typically associate with the horror genre. Midsommar took these bright white colors that you associate with like a wedding or something, like a joyous event, and that's essentially what it's supposed to be. And it turns really bad. Goes really bad. So, that disconnect between that contrast, that is where the horror and the shock value comes in. So, I guess there's a couple ways they do horror in Midsommar. There's the shock value, which is definitely a lot more prevalent in art house, more, I guess, artisan, artistic films like A24 puts out. And I really like A24 for that, because they bring something really different to the table. They put out movies that are really high quality, but are not your run-of-the-mill, typical blockbuster studio movie. I hesitate to say schlock, but I'll call it schlock, okay? Not to say that studio movies are bad or anything like that, but it's something that is completely not even oblivious, but just doesn't take into account the fact that franchise filmmaking exists. So they literally just greenlight these movies to make, and they're just great. I think the studio is really doing. They've come out with some really good horror movies. They've come out with some all around just really creative movies that no studio like Warner Brothers or Disney or Sony would really greenlight. So it's just this, I guess, this blank, this canvas or whatever, that just lets these creatives, the filmmakers, do what they want, pretty much how they want it, and puts these movies out for wide release. And I really appreciate that. because they really tapped into a part of the market that was asking for something. And they appreciated the strange movies. The movies that weren't connected to a big cinematic universe. Just these standalone stories that were really well made, with directors who were really passionate about telling that story, and that story alone. You know? So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you really like what I'm saying, I strongly suggest you check out A24 movies. I think Room was a good one. Room's a great one. It's on Netflix right now. Brie Larson. You might know her as Captain Marvel. She won Best Actress at the Academy Award for that. And she's really amazing. Like, some of the best actresses, there's a lot of those performances that, in my opinion, aren't worthy of that award. But honestly, it's all about campaigning. It's not about actual, I guess, subjective or objective greatness when it comes to acting, I guess, even though that should be. But not everything is as it should. So, Hereditary had an amazing performance by Toni Collette. I really think she should have at least been nominated for a Best Actress award for that. And I'm sure she was nominated and won some, but it wasn't like a Golden Globe or an Oscar or anything like that. And I honestly, I doubt that that'll happen to Florence Pugh for her Midsommar, but damn does she deserve it. She is, like Toni Collette, Aster just has this way with his leading female characters. They're just insanely good. And there's something that happens with her family early on in this movie, and it's very strange, to say the least. And I really think that she sold what it was like, what it must feel like to go through something like that. I won't tell you what it is. You can probably guess what happens. But probably guess what happens. But the thing is, you probably can't guess exactly how whatever happened happens. And it's another one of those things that plays into the shock value horror in this movie. Because that's some of the things that just... It was that and, like, the opening that really set this movie apart for me. That was what told me, hey, this is going to... Well, one, it's Ari Aster. He did Hereditary. I was like, okay, this dude, he knows what horror... He understands what horror should be. And he's given us, the audience, pretty much that. The whole... Did you really see that, or did you just think you saw that? That disconnect, the fact that he never answers that question, it's the not knowing that scares us. Because once we know, we're like, oh, it's that. So, it's just that. I don't need to think about that anymore. But if you don't know what that is, you're just like, well, I don't know. I can't put it into a box. And it scares you. So there's things like that in this movie. And you're just like, I can't believe... Am I actually seeing... Yep, I'm actually seeing this. Well... Okay. And it kind of slaps you in the face with it. Beats you over the head with it, maybe. But the truth is, it forces you to reckon with the unexpected on its terms, which I think is bold, and I think it's a power move from the director. And That's what makes this movie. Because first, you're watching this movie and you're having a good time. Well, there's some really messed up stuff, and then there's also really funny stuff. So it's overall, it's an enjoyable experience. You're getting some thrills and you're getting some laughs out of it. But then it just takes it all up to 11. And then you're just like, oh, man. I mean, I guess I was expecting this because I bought the ticket to go into a horror movie. But man, you know? So it's when the movie does things like that I really appreciate. I think it's really well done. We'll talk more about this later, but I strongly suggest you go see Midsommar. Director's cut leaves theaters today, and you should definitely go see it. And if you don't get a chance to see it, like, if you want to rent it later on, I strongly suggest that. If you have a choice to rent the original cut or the director's cut, I strongly suggest renting the director's cut, because I think it's a lot better movie.